Hi there. This is Mr. Tax coming from New York City. There's been a lot of news, hoopla about the expanded child tax credit and the Tax Relief in American Families and Workers Act of 2024, the bill that just passed, $78 billion, which has passed through the House overwhelmingly 357 to 70. Let's talk about the bill itself. A lot of folks out there think that this bill has passed. It's not passed. It still has to go through the Senate. It was sent to the Senate yesterday, and the Senate, we don't have a date where we expect that it's going to be passed by the Senate. Right now, they're busy with the immigration bill, and then they're going to be busy all week next week with the immigration bill. After that, they have 2 weeks off, so we're not too sure when this bill is going to pass. I just really like the title of this bill, or maybe I should say I dislike the title of the bill because it says Tax Relief for American Families and Workers Act of 2024, $78 billion tax bill, has 6 areas in the tax bill. One of them, which is specifically what everyone's hearing about, is the child tax credit, which is Title I, Tax Relief for Working Families, which we're going to discuss a little bit in detail. But it has also 5 other titles, and it has a lot of relief, mostly for businesses. It has an area for American innovation and growth that has to do with depreciation deduction on businesses, research and development tax credits for businesses. Another area, increasing global competitiveness. That's Taiwan, the Taiwan tax agreement, double taxation. Don't see how that relates to American families. They have more affordable housing, giving tax credits for affordable housing. And then it has assistance for disaster impacted communities. And lastly, it has a part for tax administration and eliminating fraud. So when we hear $78 billion and we hear this rhetoric about monies going for expanded tax, a child tax credit in the families, we need to understand that the majority of this bill is not for that purpose. It's for other purposes, and the money's going for other purposes. But let's talk about the child tax credit and the expansion of the child tax credit. I want to put this in really true perspective. And to do that, you need to understand a little bit of the history of the child tax credit. The child tax credit is under the code of section 24H. Well, that's the code. The child tax credit actually covers section 24, but H is the one that's being amended. What's been done here is just an amendment to existing rules, existing credits. And what it has done is just amended that. There's nothing new here. The child tax credit has actually been around since 1997. It started around $500 in 2001. It went up to $1,000, and it made part of that child tax credit refundable. And the part where this bill is working with is an amending section 24H, which specifically has to do with the tax years 2018 to 2025, existing rules that were there, okay? Those rules that allowed the credit to go up from $1,000 to $2,000, making it partially refundable. And we're going to talk about the difference between what's a refundable credit and what's the child tax credit, and why we're talking about two different things. I talk about the $2,000 child tax credit, but then we say part of it is refundable, meaning at that point in 2018, it made $1,400 of it refundable, and then that increased for a while. And the refundable part is really the part for those individuals where this bill tried to target and help were people that were in poverty, people that have hardly no income. And those people can actually get money back but have no taxable income, and say, okay, if I have children, I can get up to, in 2008 was $1,400. Before this amendment, it would have been $1,600, and all you needed to do was only needed to do is earn $2,500. If that family earned $2,500, they would have gotten a taxable refundable credit of not the whole $2,000, but they would have gotten a portion of it, and it would have been up to $1,600 as of last year. Now, what this bill does, it amends that. It says now, what are we going to do with the child tax credit? They say expand it. I think that's a little bit exaggerated. I don't think they expanded the credit. I think they did an adjustment to the credit. And you'll see why when we talk about it. So just going through the history, just want to remind everybody, this has always been in place. We've had child tax credit since 1997. The rules that affect the child tax credit are the ones that are from 2018 to 2025, and what we're looking at is an amendment to that, some adjustments that they made for the 2018 to 2025. Some of you folks on the other end might be saying, "Oh, but I remember getting $3,000 in 2021." Yes, you did. Because in that year, we had COVID, unprecedented, all the things that was happening. So there was a section in the code of 24, which was a 24I, that specifically had to do with 2021, and people saw $3,000 credits if they had children between the age of 7 and 17. And if you had a child under the age of 7, you got $3,600. That was a one year thing. Once that happened, we went back to 24H. This is what's in question, this is what's being amended, and this is what we're discussing now. So let's talk about the substance, right? You hear a lot, expansion. I think it's, embellished a lot, what's being said out there. But let's talk about the substance of this. What does this really do? There's 3 sections of this amendment. That I want to talk about. There's 5 sections altogether, but really 3 sections will really affect other people. The other couple sections adjust the language so that way it brings it to 2024, 2025, in the right years. But let's talk about the money. Section 102 of this bill, Title 1 of this bill, what it does, it increases. There's an increase in the refundable portion. Okay. Again, let's talk about refundable, non-refundable, and so forth. Anybody who gets a refundable tax credit are those individuals that make at least $2,500. We start at $2,500, and up to their standard deduction for, I figure if they are claiming children, they're head of household, $20,800. So if you're in that $2,500 to $20,800, in that range, you pay no taxes. Why? Because if you make $20,800 and you deduct, we look at the tax formula, your income, your tax deduction, which is your standard deduction, $20,800, you have 0 taxable income. You don't have to pay taxes. So whatever you got withheld during the year, you're getting that back. What else do you get back? A refundable tax credit, okay? It is to everyone who has a qualifying child under the age of 17. If you do, you can get $2,000 if you have taxable income, but those individuals that I just mentioned from 2,500 to 20,000 have no taxable income. So if you do not have taxable income, because the whole purpose of this that was done in 1997 was to offset your taxes, right? But if you have no taxes, right, this allowed you to actually get money in your pocket, right? You have no taxable income, so you would get a refund, you would get a refundable credit. Paid no taxes, but you get this refundable credit of $1,800 in 2023, $1,900 in 2024, and $2,000. But remember, you've been getting this already, so you would have gotten $1,600. What does this mean? It only means that you would get $200 extra in 2023, $300 extra in 2024, $400 extra. I'm sorry, $400 extra in 2025. So it's $200 in 2023. It's retroactive. You're going to be able to get it for 2023 per child. You would get it. 2024 goes up by $100, so you'll get $300. In 2025, you'll get $400 per child. So that's what it means. You're not getting, you hear the word 1,800, you're going to hear the word 1,800, 1,900, 2,000. You were going to get 1,600 anyhow. You're just getting the difference. Again, refundable tax credits, and this really applies to those folks that make $2,500 to $20,800. That is what they did for you in this bill. Well, what about everybody else, right? This is just those people where you hear what the bill tried to do and what legislation tried to do was help those people and pull them out of 16 million. They said 16 million children out of poverty, that this would help 16 million and pull them out of poverty. Well, you have everybody else working families that make more than 20,800. People make 50,000, 800,000, have 2 children, married filing jointly. What happened to them? Well, they still get the same child tax credit of $2,000. That wasn't increased. But they did do something. They gave those individuals an inflation. They allow them a credit for inflation for cost of living in the next couple of years. So what does that mean? Okay, what that means is those folks that already are getting the $2,000 child tax credit, that has always been getting the $2,000 crack tax credit since 2018 and 23, will get nothing. This is an inflation adjustment. That inflation adjustment goes in effect in 2024. That means that's this year's, what you earned this year and you file next year. So you get nothing for what happened last year in 2023. And that in cost of living, or that COLA adjustment, I'm looking at what the rules are. It seems to me it's going to be about $100 rounded down. So it seems to me you'll get $100 per child in 2024, and in 2025 you'll get another additional $100. What happens in 2025? What happens with everybody in 2025? These rules that we have for 24H, that was from 2018 to 2025. All of this sunsets. We're going back to that $1,000 in child tax credit if nothing is extended between now and then. So there was one other portion of this rule that I wanted to talk about. This amendment or this new tax legislation that I wanted to talk about. There's a special rule for certain early file 2023 returns, and those meaning that let's step back again. This is something that has been passed by the House. I think it was strategically done well, because if it was done by the Senate, and they have done all this work, a lot of things that the Senate doesn't get passed by the House, and anything these days that gets passed by the House is pretty good, right? Because of all, well, we're not going to talk about politics. Let's stay with taxes here. But I do see this actually getting through the Senate. I hope. I was very enthused about this when I started reading about this in the beginning of December, and then very disappointed once I see this bill, because I thought that we were looking at certain credits that were similar to 2021 and really helping the working family, and really, and going back to this title of this tax bill, Tax Relief for American Families and Workers Act of 2024, $78 billion, means for most people $200 per child if you make under 20,800. And nothing for anybody who makes over that, right? That's all it does. But anyway, I wanted to go back to those people because we're in a dilemma now. This is expected to pass. This is retroactive. This is going to affect those people who make those under those 20,800, but make more than 2,500. There are people, that actually need to file their taxes for financial reasons now, and they really need to get their money for their families. I don't think they should hold up and wait for $200 per child. I think, that would be absurd. But the way I read this, it says, in the case of an individual who claims the taxpayer's return on the tax for the taxable year, which, they go blah, 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 which really means if you early filed your 2023, right? And it did not take effect, the amendments that was in this bill. The secretary, or the treasurer, which is the IRS, which is under the Treasury Department, shall, to the maximum extent practical, redetermine the amount of such credit, take into account the amendments that you would get the extra $200 per child, depends, on the basis of the information that was provided. And to the extent that such redetermination results is an overpayment of tax, meaning you get a refund, they will try to pay that expeditiously as possible. So meaning, and one good is, I don't think you need to go back to your tax preparer and amend your tax returns. You're leaving it up to the IRS to actually make this adjustment and send it to you. If everybody remember those rebates, we don't know when we were going to get them. We were getting them at any time. But, what I don't like about this is that it's retroactive. It really gives a lot of work to the Internal Revenue Service, which they are overwhelmed and undermanned, right? They just do not have the manpower, and they're overwhelmed. And we're just giving them more work to do to get this money. So, not great timing. I've seen this a few times in the last few years where the IRS does something retroactive and it causes, much more work. I mean, this is a big deal. To say in 2023, we're changing the refundable credit from 1,600 to, that changes all the programs. That changes all the tables. You got, all of this has been programmed already. And now we have to let the IRS folks that's, again, overwhelmed, understaffed, to do all of this. Not so cool. Not so cool. So I guess I'm talking about this. This is, stay tuned. Let's see what the Senate's going to pass, see if there's going to be a reconciliation between the bill. I think there's a lot of people who want this bill to be passed. And it's not for the parts that you all hear about. Oh, expansion of child tax credit. We're doing all this, $78 billion. It's the other 5 parts that's in this bill that has to do with business tax credits, helping businesses, helping, the what do we have here? The Taiwan tax agreement, I mean, there is some good stuff here, communities and disaster impacted communities. But this is all monies that are being allocated for these things. So do not think $78 billion were sent for people to get $200 who's in impoverished areas. It just doesn't cover that. And give people who are the working class that makes, that utilizes the credit of $2,000, an extra $100 in 24, extra $100 in 2025. That's all it gives you. Didn't do that. Shameful on this title. Really not too good. But stay tuned. I may have to adjust this this video because maybe the Senate will do something. Maybe not. And even if they do, won't get passed through the House. So we have something, but in substance, it's not really something that was out there to help American families and workers. Take care. Bye-bye.